everybody, this is Jen Kleinhans.
And I'm Rob Vose.
And you're listening to another episode of Everybody Hates Your Brand, a podcast where we talk about our thoughts and opinions on marketing, from customer experience to brand and everything in between. Join us today as we talk to James Ray, CEO and co-owner of independent CRM agency Armadillo.
So we are always on the lookout for interesting people to come on this podcast and to interview them. People who bring maybe a different perspective or a unique viewpoint or work in an industry that we find fascinating. And I'm happy to say we have somebody with us who fits that bill. James Ray, CEO of Armadillo, an independent marketing agency based in Bristol in the southwest of the UK. For those of you who are listening not from the UK, James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, it's lovely to have you here. And I think Armadillo is a really sort of interesting case study in the sense that you're an interesting agency, independent agency. You've got some really fascinating clients. Do you just want to give us a bit of a discussion about who you are and who Armadillo are and what Armadillo do? Sort of set the scene, if you will.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm the CEO of Armadillo, but I've been there for an awful long time. I think actually March will be my quarter of a century, 25
Good
years
grief.
in one place. I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think. So that alone is pretty unusual these days. 25 years. Yes. So we are. But we're a specialist CRM agency. As you said, we're independent, and since 2017, when we had a management buyout, I've been one of the three shareholders in the business.
Okay.
And over the years, the agency began life as a small independent design house, originally in Bath. I joined in year 5, and through sort of luck, judgment, a fairly kind of swashbuckling attitude from our founder, one of our founders who was the MD at the time, we kind of tripped into direct marketing, and direct marketing became CRM and moved from paper and postage stamps to digital stuff. And that's how we came to be where we are now, which is still a CRM specialist. We're very results focused and very data driven.
It's one of the things I like about Armadillo, and also sort of disclosure purposes. James and I worked together previously when I was at Disney, one of Armadillo's clients. One of the things I always like about you is that you unapologetically describe yourself as a CRM agency, which I think it's not necessarily unique, but it's kind of refreshing in some ways.
Well, that's it's interesting you say that, because I think most agencies that I think are probably closest to us in proposition have come from being a direct marketing agency, which is what we used to call ourselves and what they used to call them. But interestingly, like you say, not many people use the term CRM, but I think that's what, honestly, we go by our clients' job titles.
Yes,
most of our clients tend to be CRM directors. So CRM agency feels like the most appropriate description if we want them to know that we're guys that can help them with their challenges.
Cool. And I think you say independent, and obviously you're one of the co-owners as well as being the CEO. That must bring some real positives, and it must bring some sort of real challenges. Can you kind of articulate some of those in terms of the pros and the cons of what being an independent, and by independent, to be clear, what we mean for the listener, is not part of a behemoth holding agency like a WPP or an Omnicom or a Publicis. Publicly traded companies. What does it bring you that being independent, do you think?
Well, there's a certain freedom of movement. We're driven as an agency by what drives me and my fellow board members, and that's delivering results for our clients. That's the thing that makes me happiest. It's the thing I get the thrill out of. So because we don't have to worry about delivering a dividend to shareholders or pushing a certain amount of profit into a group P&L, we can pursue that fairly single-mindedly. And so far, that's translated through into a strong business performance as well. So as long as we get that right, we're free to pursue that. So that's definitely the pro. There's definitely some challenges too. We don't have access to some of the resources that some of our bigger networked agency competitors might have. I think there's definitely something in having critical mass for central functions like marketing, where it's harder for us to market effectively because a proportion of our revenue doesn't cover whole heads like in the way that theirs would.
Yeah.
But I think, on balance, I'm happier with the mix that we've got.
Do you ever kind of bump into that? There's one of my favorite phrases. I think I first heard it at university, but the nobody got fired for hiring IBM, which is that nobody got hired for hiring the biggest name or the biggest brand in a particular sector. Is that something you bump up against at all?
It's hard to know because I think we probably don't know about the times when we didn't get approached for a piece of business because that people hadn't heard of us. But when we engage with potential clients, we usually come out pretty well. The last pitch we did was for Carnival, and we were amongst all of our competitors there were big networked agencies, and we came out winning that piece of business. So.
Indeed,
I think when we go toe to toe, we do pretty well. But yeah, our single marketing objective is to continue to try and make us more famous, to overcome that prejudice if it is there.
Yeah, and speaking of prejudice, in a sense, that you are based in Bristol, which is in the southwest of the UK, and Bristol is obviously a bit of certainly even in the UK, a bit of a hotbed of sort of regional agencies and agencies in general. But obviously, London has somewhat of a black hole effect. It sucks a lot of people and agencies and time and all those sort of things. What impact has being in Bath originally, and then in Bristol now? What impact do you think that has had on your growth? Does it have an impact in terms of like making recruitment harder or any of those kind of things, or do you see it more as a positive?
It's a positive, I think, but there have been some challenges. I think in recruitment terms, historically it's been harder to find talent. I think there's no question about that. But we have been very successful in finding great talent. And Bristol is a city generally, I think, that has a strong appeal to people who've worked in London and are ready for a change in lifestyle. Bristol is a very, very cool city. It's a really great place. It's got a fantastic vibe. It's contemporary but chilled out, so it's very appealing. So we do get a lot of talented people coming into the city, which helps. And we do have a very strong base of creative and technology industries in the city too. So all in all, that's a really nice balance.
Yeah.
And also it's changing. Right now it's changing. So, we haven't been in a physical office for nearly a year.
Yeah.
And that's meant that I think 3/4 of the people we've recruited over the last 6 or 9 months actually haven't been in the geographical orbit of Bristol. So those geographical limitations or influences on recruitment are definitely lessening as a result of everything that's happened and the ways that we're now working.
That's interesting. I think we'll come back to that later because I think obviously the current situation has affected a lot of businesses in lots of different ways, and that's an interesting point. It's interesting if you read the marketing press, you would think that the agency model is kind of beset from all sides, whether that's clients taking work in house, whether that be from media buying or creative, whatever that might be. You've got large consulting firms moving into this world. You've got a lot of people seeming to be moving from retainer more to project work driven by procurement departments, that sort of stuff. How much of that have you started to see, and does being a specialist sort of insulate you against that somewhat? Are you seeing those same forces at play?
That's a really good question. And you're right; those forces are definitely out there. It's a mix. I mean, we've seen a mixed bag. We've got clients that use different mixes of all of the parts of our proposition that we offer. Some of them use all of it. Some of them use just this bit or just that bit or this bit and that bit. So I think part of the key to that for us has been developing a sort of an operating model that allows us to give clients all of it, but also parts of it, and it still works financially for us as well as delivering them what they need. Mm-hmm. So in practical terms, we've got some clients who do have teams in-house who are very good at executing their campaigns. So we might work on strategy and creative and then hand off to those guys, and that we can work very effectively that way. We've also got clients that need us to do it all end to end, everything from the insight to the strategy to the creative to actually piloting the campaign execution as well. So I think being able to flex and be, not, I'd say modular almost in the way that we can apply our services around what clients are already good at. I don't see any point in trying to sell clients a service that they don't need, but I'm always really excited to give clients a service that can help them power up what they've got, or add something that they don't already have.
I imagine that we talked earlier about the independent. That probably helps with that flexibility. I would say, is that fair? Yeah,
it does, because it means we won't get out of bed for less than X type of factor in how we consider things. We still have the luxury of being able to work for clients where just the work's exciting and motivating. This sounds like a bit of a sales pitch. I apologise, but it's true. So yeah, it definitely, being independent helps that. But actually, I think we've worked very hard particularly in the last year, to make that model a bit more scalable, and in fact, a lot more scalable. Because I think it does give us a competitive advantage in truth compared to some of our larger competitors that maybe need to turn a higher revenue off a client to make it work for them. We can be a little bit more flexible and still make it work for us, as well as delivering what the client is looking for.
Absolutely. So thinking about those forces, what's the one thing or the one of those forces you think will have the largest impact over the next sort of 2 to 5 years? What's the one that you look at and you go, okay, that's something we really do need to think about and be concerned about?
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's technology, and that might be part of our conversation later on down the line. But
yeah, absolutely.
Technology is the thing that continually disrupts, the whole industry, and especially our bit of it. I think what clients look for, and what they'll always need, is creativity, and that doesn't necessarily mean creating an amazing TV campaign, but it can do. But in our world, it means fusing technology and data and insight and strategy to deliver a direct to consumer campaign that drives results. And it's the creativity and the use of all of those disciplines that we add that gives clients what they need. So as technology will change stuff, and as long as agencies can make sure that they're evolving how they do creativity in that changed environment, then there'll still be a need for agencies. If their application of creativity goes past its sell-by date, then you're in trouble.
Well, the technology thing is an interesting one to me, because I've been involved in some big agencies and some big companies and small agencies, small companies. And what strikes me about technology is that, especially CRM technology, everyone's got a cloud or it's AI platforms like Einstein or Watson from a Salesforce perspective, or marketing automation, or all those kind of things. And I've been to many and many Adobe symposium and Salesforce presentation where they presented these amazing case studies, all of which to me seem a little bit artificial. And I look at it and go, and there are numbers that show that clients underutilize the tech that they have. So people, maybe their eyes are bigger than their stomach, or they haven't set a strategy yet, but have been seduced by the siren's call of a Salesforce or an Oracle, or whomever it might be. Is that, so you talk about technology being a driver, and I absolutely agree with that. But do you see underutilization within, do people ever come to you and go, look, we bought this kit, we've got bugger all idea what to do with it, or we're only using 20% of it, or it's not even scratching the surface, can you help us?
Well, in short, yes, and that's often the particularly for an agency that offers our services, I think it's usually what brings clients to us. We've had pitch briefs that are riven with, you can feel the anxiety about the investment that they've made in the technology, and that they don't perceive that they're getting the return from it that they promised to their own business. So yes, without question. And I think that's a big subject, but I think some of those technologies, most of those technologies are brilliant, and they're also brilliantly marketed. I would say
I would
we've got
agree with that.
plenty of examples where they've not been implemented terribly well. I think implementation is usually the thing that has let it down. The other thing is data. So I think sometimes, I think you kind of alluded to this in your question.
Yeah.
Maybe clients are buying tech and are buying a platform where the capabilities are tracking ahead of the ability of the data that they've got to fuel it. So you're trying to run a very high performance engine on really low grade petrol, which means you can't get it to fire as hard as you can.
Because you just know all those presentations you see at Salesforce conferences are run on canned, perfect data that they've created to create a live demo. And if you just plugged in Salesforce into the standard businesses databases, it would collapse in a small smoking heap.
Totally. And one of the things, I mentioned creativity earlier. That's been the kind of key thing that agencies still need to provide if they're going to stay relevant. And I think we've now got a team in our business who are, creative technologists is quite a hackneyed term now, but
very Tony Stark of you.
Yeah, how very Tony Stark. I knew we'd get a Marvel reference in somewhere.
Always.
But what that team does is they are creative with technological fixes and transformations and gizmos and bits of software that oftentimes help the tech that the client's got their side work a little bit harder or enable it to do a thing that it couldn't do before. So, we're not providing them, it's other people's jobs to provide the tech that they've got, but we quite often do a bit of custom tuning for them. And that's as much part of our creative proposition as our visual creative, as our copywriting and our UX and all the rest of it.
Yeah, make things run a lot smoother.
Yeah.
And it's because it's difficult for a lot of businesses, especially businesses with legacy systems, that it would cost a fortune to change. I remember when I was in Australia, worked on a big bank out there, and one of the senior people said the reason a lot of stuff it's difficult for us to do stuff here from a data perspective is that we have really old legacy systems that we would love to rip out and replace with something fantastic that we could then just plug stuff into, but the payback on spending billions of Aussie dollars to do that is years and years and years and years, and the average lifespan of somebody on the PLC board is 3 years.
Yeah.
So no one's signing that off.
No, absolutely. We've worked with clients who to be honest, have a much are able for as a function of their business model and their culture, are able to be more farsighted than that. But usually they still hit the same sorts of challenges with either unpicking a bit of legacy or. We've bought this cool thing, but it's not quite firing the way we want it to. So how can we untap that bit of that blockage and get the potential released and the ROI to kind of start trickling out of it? So,
okay. Well, talking about sort of Tony Stark describes himself as a futurist, so I'm going to put you in his shoes a little bit now. Let's assume vaccines work, and by the end of 2021, we're somewhat back into the kind of real world. If you were to look sort of 5 years ahead, where do you see Armadillo? Where do you see are we still going to be having conversations about personalization, which we seem to have been having in CRM world for 20 years now? Where do you see the world in 5 years' time?
Well, that is a good question, and I'm not even going to try and be Tony Stark about it, but I think, what do I think Armadillo will look like in 5 years' time? I hope and I believe we'll still be following the same core purpose. We'll still be applying creative, original thinking to problems that we can unlock with data and deliver return on investment against the money that our clients are spending with us for them. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see a convergence of, if I think about the agency structure, I think we're going to see a bit of a convergence in disciplines.
Okay.
And by that I mean, if you looked at our org chart right now, you'd see titles that you recognise from typical agency structures, and the truth is underneath that, I think our people are a lot more sort of blended in terms of the kind of convergence of technology and creativity than the titles suggest. And I think that trend is going to continue. So I'd be really interested to look at the org chart of our agency and probably many other agencies in 5 years' time, because I think we'll see some different words on there that I don't think will be Tony Starky in their sort of stupidity, but hopefully will reflect technology and creativity and strategy and all those things becoming increasingly blended, and having skills that where people are thinking about those things at the same time, and it's not such a sort of production liney to me to you. We do the creative and then we work out what the campaign looks like, and then we send it to the campaign guys and they plug it into Salesforce and off it goes.
It's a funny one to me. I just want to see less friction when you're developing a campaign. That would be my sort of, because it's funny. I said, we've been talking about people have been talking about personalization for ages, and they have, because it's hard. It's hard to get right, and it's easy to mess up. Whether that's building recommendation engines that works, or next best product stuff, or and then plugging that into emails that can or whatever platform you're talking about to then present a personalized customer experience. Like, this sort of thing has been presented for years and years and years in the CRM industry, but the amount of brands that do that well right now, there ain't that many of them. No. There's a few you could kind of go, those people do it amazingly well. I would point to people like one of your clients, Disney, with the Magic Band for the passes and all that. That customer experience, or Amazon obviously is the one that everyone talks about as doing it probably, and even they mess up still. But do some really positive stuff. I just love to see what was promised work.
Yes.
No, I don't feel like it happens that often.
No, and this is getting very philosophical now, but I think maybe one of the other things that those two examples you mentioned are both brands where there's very clear utility and transparent benefits for the customer to share their data. So they've overtly brought, by you giving us your data, we make your experience better, and they've proven it. And I think that's the problem. It's that most brands at the moment might say that, but actually the evidence to the customer is pretty sparse. So I've told you this and I've told you that, but really you're just sending me the same email that everybody else is getting.
Exactly.
So I think that's, and I think the other influencing factor on that is, I am guessing and believing that the legislative impact, across the world, particularly in the UK where we operate. I can only see it getting more restrictive around the use of data, which means that brands being able to give customers a clear proposition as to, if you share your data, that we will deliver the following value back to you. And a loyalty scheme is the classic way of doing that, but it's there are other ways.
I think great.
Yeah, I think that'll be the focus increasingly, and I think other channels will be closed. I think some of the current data driven channels are starting. They're not going to be as easy to use, if at all, because the change in the way we're allowed to use customers' data is coming, and it's going to be legislated for. So I think that's all in the mix as well.
Yeah, and even if it's not legislated for, the technology company like Apple, can come along and introduce a new opt-in, as they're doing for collecting data from apps, and cause serious problems for somebody like Facebook.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a universal opt-out, opt-in for that kind of stuff just changes the game completely.
It does, and those will be technology providers like Apple will be. They've got a key part. They're probably going to be the biggest influence on what happens in the next 5 years, I think. Which is, and it's a couple of steps downstream from where we as an agency, we're normally engaged with our clients, but it's those forces outside of either us or our clients that will actually have the biggest impact on what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I'd still keep the faith that
absolutely.
As long as there's an opportunity to be creative in the space where there's data and there's customers and there's permission, then there'll always be a need to for a company like ours to add value by applying that creativity to the challenges that our clients have got.
Well, going from the sort of the future to the present, I think it's safe to say that 2020 sucked in a big way for pretty much everybody globally. and 2021 hasn't started off on a slightly more hopeful note with vaccines rolling out across the globe and what have you. But it's still pretty tough for people right now, and it's pretty tough for a lot of people from an agency perspective. And how have you coped as an agency with the COVID pandemic in terms of things like coherence as a team, working from home? What has worked, what hasn't, what lessons have you learned? Because it must have been really difficult.
It has, and I guess the most difficult thing, and it was in the same boat with this. There's no playbook. You couldn't dial up several podcasts from 3 or 4 years ago about how we managed through the last pandemic. So everybody I think we all had to respond pretty quickly. I think the first is luck, and we have been fortunate that some of our clients had a serious impact, and that did impact on us. It impacted on us obviously financially, but also emotionally as well, because we have close relationships with our clients, and we care about them and their businesses, and it was hard to be working and talking to people who were going through, frankly, an even worse time than we were.
Yeah.
But overall, the impact, we were lucky that wasn't across the board. I think if we'd had clients concentrated in certain sectors, as I know some agencies do and did, it might have been tougher. But we did have to make some changes. We went to remote working like everybody did, and we haven't been back. And we exited our lease from our office about 5 months ago.
Did you?
Yeah,
wow.
We kind of made a bet that we weren't ever going to need an office like that again.
Blimey.
So that was we made that decision quite quickly, but I'm really glad we did it, because it saved us an awful lot of money. We'd be paying a lot of money for a space that would literally be gathering dust for a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think remote working worked surprisingly well. I never expected it to be as easy as it felt like it was. So to begin with, everything worked really efficiently. It worked really well, and we thought, this is actually all right. This is going to be okay.
I sense a but.
Yeah, well, there is a but, and I think what we saw immediately was an impact on efficiency, which went up. I think people were working smarter. They were working more efficiently. They were much more focused, just because of the nature of working remotely and working through video calls rather than gassing away with your feet up on a meeting room table as we sometimes used to. But the but, I think, came through later. I think that we felt the upsides very quickly. The downsides, which were some fatigue, I think some challenges around people's mental health with not sort of adapting to manage remote working in a way that was going to keep them positive and sort of mentally healthy. And those took a while to come through. And then, obviously against the background of the situation constantly changing. You can go and meet up. No, you can't go and meet up. You can have meetings. No, you can't have meetings.
Yeah.
But we've reached, I think, a good equilibrium with it. When we've been able to, we've given people a package of various different things. So the company now gives everybody a contribution towards their broadband because they're all using it for work. We allow everybody a home working allowance, which is you can do against taxation, because frankly they all deserve it and need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've got a lot of things going on which have come from not just from the leadership but also from the teams about. For example, there's a thing going on at the moment where 4 pairs get drawn out of a hat every week, and the company pays for them to get deliveries to their individual homes and then have one-to-one sort of lunches, which is just helping because when you don't get together in a physical space, people who don't have to work together by nature of what they're working on don't see each other. And that's bad, because sometimes then when those people need to come back together, it's the relationship's rusty. So yeah, we've invested in a lot of that kind of stuff. And we will. Our plan is we'll go back to an office when the time is right.
I was about to ask, is it a hybrid model?
Yeah, I think that's where everybody's talking about that, aren't they?
Yes.
And I expect that's the route we will explore. And you know, I may have mentioned this earlier on, but we have been recruiting over the last 6 months, and quite a number of those people are now from outside of our geographical area. So our ability to recruit isn't now restricted to within an hour drive of Bristol. So we're going to have some sort of hybrid model, because not all of our team are geographically centred anymore, which is a good thing. I think it's certainly helped our profile.
It's going to be interesting when, I say, if and when things get back to quote unquote normal. Because I'm with you. I think the hybrid model is one that makes sense. I think, especially from an agency perspective, there are some times when being in the same room, having a place for clients to come, workshops, all that sort of stuff, it makes absolute sense to have somewhere that can be done. Yeah. But the idea of then, having the benefits of that remote working model is, as you talked about from a recruitment perspective, is so attractive. It's going to take a while, I think, for it to kind of for a model to settle in, because I think obviously it was forced on you. Like, there was nothing you could do. It was like everyone's at home, so it kind of had to happen. And now it's kind of like, okay, well, it'll be interesting to see. Some people won't; they'll go straight back to the office, and it's going to be an interesting time. I imagine what your clients do would obviously have an impact on you as well, to a degree.
Yeah, and it remains to be seen. But it's we used to spend an awful lot of our time on trains, because we're Bristol based, but most of our clients are in London, so we'd be up and down the on GWR.
I remember you guys shipping into Hammersmith, the Disney office, and all that kind of stuff.
And that was cool. I'd really like to see the inside of Paddington Station. I'll be honest. Yeah, I miss it.
To be honest with you, it was nice the other way as well. It was nice to be able to come down and get out of London and head down there. Okay, I'm conscious of time. So one other sort of question. One of the things we did a podcast on ageism in agencies, and obviously I'm now getting on a bit, so relevant. But kind of diversity, I think, is an interesting issue for ages across the board, from whether that's ageism, sexism, racism, whatever it might be, and combating those things and trying to get past them. What are you guys doing in that regard to try and create a more diverse? Because Bristol's a hugely diverse city.
Yes, it is. It really is. And I mentioned its cultural signature earlier. That it's a great place to be, and it's got a really strong, rich cultural diversity that definitely adds and is a key part of the city's character. So yeah, as an agency, I think on a number of levels, we are. The first thing is the changes that we've just spoken about, and being able to recruit actually from wider than our immediate geographical pool. That's helping, and we're able to kind of recruit and connect with a much more diverse range of candidates. So we're making positive moves there. And we've done some things as an agency. We've invested in, for example, not so long ago in putting some of our key staff who are usually involved in recruitment through an unconscious bias training program.
Oh, good.
So that we could try and ensure, as far as we can, that when we're recruiting, we're trying to eliminate any unconscious bias that's going on, so we get the right mix of people coming through. And then the other thing and this is a reflection of how cool Bristol is, and I'm bigging up Bristol here, but
you are.
We do have a very strong community of businesses broadly in the kind of creative industry, which includes marketing agencies, but also, as you know, Bristol's got a very strong part of the BBC there, where all the natural history programs are made. We've got Aardman, so we've got a really rich, diverse bunch of businesses there, and a very, very good, strong body called Bristol Creative Industries. Used to be called Bristol Media, who we're all members of. So I think the other thing that is working really well is working with that body who is doing a lot of good things, and then as a community we're all connected to that and supporting that. Right. So, for example, BCI run a program every year where they run a competition for young people from all sorts of different backgrounds to get the opportunity to go out to South by Southwest with the Bristol Creative Industries team, which obviously sadly didn't happen this year because South by Southwest got canned with everything else. But and then some of those people have then gone on and they do. So we've had a number of those winners come and do stints, work experience or placement stints with us, so that they kind of build up their experience. So yeah, I think that those are the things really. It's I think we're doing some good things as an agency, but we're also it's really effective when groups of like-minded businesses can pool resources or connect with a central body that they can support initiatives at that level.
Well, I'll make sure we have a link to that body in the show notes. Sounds like an interesting idea. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. So thank you very much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure. And we only mentioned Marvel once.
Yeah, just
twice maybe.
I'm trying to stop. Well, look, thanks very much, James. Much appreciated.
Pleasure. Cheers, Rob.
Well, you did it. You've wasted another perfectly good half an hour or so with Rob and Jen and the Everybody Hates Your Brand podcast. Again, you can find us on everybodyhatesyourbrand.com and your podcast platform of choice. Have a week.
Take great care and be vigilant.